Welcome to Mystic Bedtime Stories, where the mysteries of the past become your gentle companions into sleep. I'm here to share with you tonight a story that has puzzled scholars, amazed scientists, and captured imaginations for over a century. A story that begins deep beneath the Mediterranean Sea, where time itself has been waiting patiently to reveal its secrets. Here at Mystic Bedtime Stories, we believe that the most profound mysteries make the most restful companions. Each week, we journey together into the forgotten corners of history, where ancient wisdom and unexplained wonders create the perfect atmosphere for peaceful rest. Tonight, we'll discover something extraordinary, something that shouldn't exist according to everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. So settle in now. Find your most comfortable position. Let your shoulders drop, release the tension in your jaw, and allow your breathing to slow naturally. Tonight's story will carry you back more than 2,000 years, to a time when the line between science and magic was beautifully blurred, when brilliant minds created wonders that we're only now beginning to understand. Picture, if you will, the ancient Mediterranean. The year is somewhere around the 1st century before Christ. The waters are crystal clear, shifting from deep sapphire to the softest turquoise as they meet the rocky shores of Greece. Islands dot the sea like scattered pearls, each one holding its own secrets, its own stories whispered by the wind through olive groves and marble ruins. Among these islands lies a small, almost forgotten place called Antikythera. Its name means opposite Kythera in ancient Greek, a humble description for what would become one of history's most important archaeological sites. The island sits quietly between the Greek mainland and Crete, a stepping stone across the ancient sea lanes where merchants and scholars once traveled, carrying with them the wisdom of Alexandria, the crafts of Rhodes, and the innovations of Athens. The waters around Antikythera are deep and clear, but they hold their secrets well. For nearly 2,000 years, something remarkable lay hidden beneath the waves, patiently waiting for the right moment to emerge and challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. On this peaceful evening, as we prepare to drift into sleep, imagine those ancient waters. See them as they might have been on a calm night long ago, moonlight dancing on the gentle swells, the stars reflected like scattered diamonds on the surface. Somewhere far below, resting on the sandy bottom, lies a Roman merchant ship that ran aground during a terrible storm sometime between 70 and 60 BCE. The ship carried precious cargo from the Greek islands to Rome, bronze statues of gods and heroes, their faces serene in the eternal darkness of the deep, marble sculptures that once adorned wealthy villas, jewelry and coins that spoke of trade and prosperity, wine amphorae that still held traces of vintages drunk at symposiums where philosophers debated the nature of the cosmos. But among all these treasures, nestled perhaps in the captain's quarters or carefully packed in the belongings of a learned passenger, was something that would one day astound the modern world. A device so sophisticated, so far ahead of its time, that when it was finally discovered, many refused to believe it could be authentic. The device was about the size of a shoebox, crafted from bronze with the skill of a master clockmaker. Its wooden case had long since rotted away in the salt water, but the bronze mechanism inside, though corroded and fragmented, still held the ghost of its former precision. Dozens of interlocking gears, wheels within wheels, calculations made, manifest in metal, a machine that could predict the future of the heavens themselves. For now, it rested quietly in the darkness, as patient as the tides, as eternal as the stars it was designed to track. The fish swam by, oblivious to the revolutionary technology that lay before them. Seaweed grew over its bronze surfaces like a gentle blanket, and there it waited, as you might wait now for sleep to come, in perfect stillness, in perfect peace. The centuries passed like long, slow breaths. Empires rose and fell above the waves. The Roman Empire reached its height and then crumbled. The Byzantine Empire took its place. The Renaissance brought new discoveries, new ways of understanding the world. The age of exploration opened new horizons. The Industrial Revolution transformed how humans lived and worked. And still, the device waited in its watery tomb, holding secrets that would challenge our very understanding of ancient civilization. Secrets about the sophistication of Greek mathematics and astronomy. Secrets about technological capabilities we never imagined existed in the ancient world. Secrets about human ingenuity that transcends the boundaries of time itself. But every secret has its moment to be revealed. And for our mysterious device, that moment would come at the dawn of the 20th century, when a group of simple sponge divers would make one of the most important archaeological discoveries in human history. As we begin this journey together, tonight, let yourself sink into the story like those ancient artifacts sinking slowly through the Mediterranean waters. Let the weight of the day fall away from you, like sediment settling on the ocean floor, and prepare to discover something that will amaze you, puzzle you, and gently guide you toward the most peaceful of dreams. Our story truly begins in the spring of 1900, when the sea would finally give up its greatest secret. The Mediterranean morning was perfect for diving. Captain Dimitrios Kondos stood on the deck of his small vessel, watching his crew prepare for another day of sponge hunting. These men were among the most skilled divers in all of Greece, capable of descending to depths that would challenge even modern equipment. They had learned their trade from their fathers, who had learned from their fathers before them, in an unbroken chain of knowledge passed down through generations of islanders, who made their living from the sea's bounty. Sponge diving was dangerous work, but it was honest work, and it had sustained the communities of Kalymnos and Simi for centuries. The divers would descend wearing heavy copper helmets, their air supplied by hand pumps operated by their colleagues on the surface. Down in the blue-green twilight of the deep Mediterranean, they would search for the finest natural sponges, prized throughout Europe for their softness and durability. On this particular morning in late spring of 1900, the sea was unusually calm. The winds that often made diving impossible had died to barely a whisper, and the water was so clear that from the surface you could see the white sand bottom 40, 50, even 60 feet below. Perfect conditions for a productive day's work. Fate, as it often does, had other plans entirely. Captain Kondos had been following reports of good sponge beds near the island of Antikythera. The island itself was small and sparsely populated, little more than a rocky outcrop rising from the deep waters between Crete and the Greek mainland. Local fishermen had mentioned seeing promising signs in the deeper waters off the island's northeastern coast, and Kondos was never one to ignore local knowledge. As his boat approached the area, something caught his eye. The water here was deeper than usual for sponge diving, perhaps 80 feet or more, but the exceptional clarity of the day made the bottom visible like a window into another world. And there, nestled against the rocky slope of the underwater cliff, was something that didn't belong. Even from the surface, Kondos could see shapes that were too regular, too purposeful to be natural rock formations. There were curves and angles, the suggestion of carved forms, the glint of metal where the morning sun penetrated the depths. His experienced eye, trained by decades of reading the sea bottom, told him immediately that this was something extraordinary. Elias, he called to his most experienced diver, a weathered man whose family had been working these waters for 4 generations. Look there, below us. Tell me what you see. Elias Dadiatos was already suiting up, the heavy copper helmet being lowered carefully over his head by his diving partners. The hand pump began its steady rhythm, sending fresh air down through the long rubber hose that would be his lifeline to the surface world. With the practiced grace of a man who is as comfortable underwater as on land, he slipped over the side. of the boat and began his descent. The water was even clearer below the surface. That perfect Mediterranean blue, it seems to glow with its own inner light. As Elias descended, the familiar pressure built in his ears, but his attention was entirely focused on the remarkable scene unfolding before him. What Captain Condos had spotted from above was indeed extraordinary, but it was only the beginning. Scattered across the sea floor in a rough line, as if they had spilled from some great container, were dozens of objects that clearly did not belong to the natural world. Bronze statues, some larger than life, lay partially buried in the sand. Their faces, green with the patina of centuries underwater, still bore expressions of divine serenity or heroic determination. Arms and legs, separated from their bodies by time and tide, created a surreal garden of human forms. There were marble sculptures as well, their white stone now home to colorful sea anemones and small fish that darted between the carved folds of ancient togas. Wine jars, their pointed bottoms designed to be stuck into sand or fitted into ship's racks, stood at drunken angles like tombstones in an underwater cemetery. But it was when Elias moved closer to examine what appeared to be a corroded mass of bronze and wood that his discovery took on truly historic proportions. Among the obvious artifacts, the statues and pottery that clearly marked this as an ancient shipwreck, was something else entirely. Something that didn't fit with everything he knew about the ancient world. It was roughly rectangular, about the size of a large book, but thick and heavy-looking. What remained of a wooden case was barely recognizable, eaten away by centuries of salt water and marine organisms. But within that rotted framework, Elias could see the unmistakable gleam of bronze, and more puzzling still, what appeared to be the teeth of gears. Gears. In an ancient Greek shipwreck, the absurdity of it struck him immediately. Gears belonged to mills and later, much later, to clocks. They were the product of medieval engineering at the earliest. What were they doing on a ship that, judging by the style of the statuary and pottery, had sunk sometime in the classical period, perhaps even before the birth of Christ? Elias circled the object carefully, his movements slow and deliberate in the thick water. The bronze was heavily corroded, green and rough with the accumulated deposits of 2 millennia, but the mechanical nature of what he was seeing was undeniable. There were what appeared to be multiple layers of gears, wheels within wheels, all crafted with a precision that spoke of sophisticated engineering. He reached out to touch it, his thick diving gloves making delicate manipulation impossible. But even through the leather, he could feel the solid reality of worked metal. This was no trick of light and shadow, no choral formation that coincidentally resembled human craftsmanship. This was a machine, an honest-to-goodness mechanical device, lying on the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, in the company of artifacts that were clearly from the ancient world. Implications began to dawn on him as he floated there in the blue. Silence, 40 fathoms beneath the surface of the modern world. Either this device had somehow found its way into an ancient shipwreck by some impossible coincidence, or the ancient Greeks had possessed mechanical engineering capabilities far beyond anything historians had ever imagined. His air supply, monitored carefully by the steady rhythm of the pump above, reminded him that even the most extraordinary discovery had to yield to practical considerations. With great care, he began to examine the surrounding area, looking for the best way to recover this mysterious object, along with the more conventional artifacts that clearly belonged to one of the richest archaeological sites ever discovered. The ship itself, or what remained of it, was scattered across perhaps 50 yards of sea floor. The wooden hull had long since disappeared, consumed by time and the patient work of marine organisms, but its cargo remained. A time capsule from the ancient world spread like offerings across the sandy bottom. There were coins, their bronze, and silver surfaces now green, but their inscriptions still visible to a trained eye. Jewelry that spoke of wealthy passengers or or cargo destined for Roman nobility. Tools and everyday objects that provided glimpses into the daily life of people who had lived and died before the Colosseum was built, before Pompeii was buried, before Christ walked the hills of Palestine. But always, Elias found his attention drawn back to the mysterious bronze object with its impossible gears. In a discovery that was already revolutionary in its scope and richness, this single item promised to be the most revolutionary of all. As his diving time reached its safe limit, Elias began his careful ascent, his mind racing with questions and possibilities. He had discovered something that would change our understanding of ancient technology forever, though it would be many decades before anyone could fully appreciate just how remarkable his find truly was, breaking the surface into the warm Mediterranean. Sunshine, Elias pulled off his diving helmet and turned to Captain Condos with eyes wide with excitement and disbelief. "Captain," he said, his voice carrying the weight of one of archaeology's greatest moments, "we've found something impossible." The news of the discovery spread through the Greek archaeological community like ripples across still water. Within weeks of Captain Condos's report, officials from the Greek government had organized a formal expedition to recover what was clearly one of the most significant underwater archaeological sites ever found. The small island of Antikythera, which had slept peacefully in obscurity for millennia, suddenly found itself at the center of international attention. The recovery operation stretched through the autumn and winter months of 1900 and into the following year. Using the limited diving technology of the time, teams of sponge divers worked in carefully coordinated shifts to bring up treasure after treasure from the ancient wreck. Bronze statues emerged from the depths like sleeping gods awakening from a watery dream. The famous bronze youth of Antikythera, with his eternally graceful pose and serene expression, would become one of the most celebrated sculptures in the world. Marble heads of philosophers gazed with blind eyes at their first sunlight in 2,000 years. Wine amphorae still sealed revealed vintage wines that had aged far beyond any sommelier's wildest imagination, though time had not been kind to their flavor. Jewelry, coins, and household items painted a picture of a ship carrying not just cargo, but passengers of considerable wealth and sophistication. But among all these conventional treasures, that strange bronze object with its mysterious gears continued to puzzle everyone who examined it. Carefully wrapped in protective cloth and transported to the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, it sat like a riddle waiting to be solved, a whisper from the past, speaking in a language no one yet understood. The object itself was disappointing to look at least initially. Centuries of submersion in salt water had not been kind to its bronze surfaces. What had once been precisely machined metal was now covered with a thick, rough patina of green and brown corrosion. The wooden case that had once protected it was little more than mineralized fragments, crumbling at the slightest touch. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like nothing more than an interesting piece of marine archaeology, a curiosity perhaps, but hardly revolutionary. It was only when scholars began to examine it more closely that its true significance became apparent. Using dental picks and fine brushes, conservators began the painstaking process of removing 2 millennia of corrosion and marine deposits. And with each careful scrape, each gentle brushstroke, the impossible became undeniable. What emerged was not just a collection of gears, but an intricate mechanical system of stunning sophistication. Bronze wheels of various sizes, some larger than coins, others as broad as saucers, had been crafted with a precision that would have challenged even the finest clockmakers of Renaissance Europe. The teeth on these gears were cut with mathematical regularity, designed to mesh perfectly with their companions in a complex dance of mechanical motion. There were at least 30 bronze gears visible, and X-ray examinations would later reveal even more hidden within the corroded mass. Some were simple circular wheels, but others were more complex, with pins and slots that suggested they could slide along axes or engage with other components in sophisticated ways. The level of miniaturization was remarkable. Some gears were so small and delicate that they could have come from the workshop of an 18th century Swiss watchmaker. But this was no 18th century device. The pottery, coins, and sculptures found alongside it dated the shipwreck to sometime between 70 and 60 BCE, placing this mechanical marvel firmly in the era of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, more than 15 centuries before anything remotely comparable was supposed to have existed. The implications were staggering. Everything historians thought they knew about ancient technology would have to be reconsidered. The conventional narrative spoke of a steady progression from simple to complex, with mechanical engineering emerging only in medieval times and reaching sophistication in the Renaissance and beyond. Yet here was evidence of mechanical engineering capabilities in the ancient world that surpassed anything known to have existed until the great clockmakers of later centuries. Dr. Spyridon Sties, the archaeologist who first recognized the gears within the corroded mass, found himself in the unusual position of announcing a discovery that challenged fundamental assumptions about human technological development. When he presented his findings to the archaeological community, the reaction was a mixture of fascination and skepticism that would persist for decades. Many scholars simply refused to believe that such sophistication could have existed in ancient times. Surely, they argued, the device must have found its way into the ancient wreck through some later intrusion. Perhaps it had fallen from a medieval ship passing over the site, or perhaps it was the work of Arab or Byzantine engineers from centuries after the Roman period. The alternative, that ancient Greeks had possessed mechanical engineering skills rivaling those of much later periods, seemed too revolutionary to accept. But as more detailed examinations were conducted, these skeptical explanations became increasingly difficult to maintain. The device was clearly integrated with the other artifacts from the wreck. Its style of construction, the types of bronze, alloys used, and the techniques employed in its manufacture all pointed to the same historical period as the undoubtedly ancient sculptures and pottery found alongside it. More intriguingly, as scholars began to decipher the fragmentary inscriptions still visible on the bronze surfaces, they found Greek text that referred to astronomical phenomena and calendar systems used in the Hellenistic period. This was not some anachronistic intrusion into the ancient wreck, but a genuine product of ancient Greek civilization at its intellectual peak. The device appeared to consist of several distinct sections, each serving a different function within the overall mechanism. There was what appeared to be a main display, with graduated scales and pointers that could move to indicate various positions. There were subsidiary dials, smaller circles within the larger design, that seemed to track different cycles or periods. And binding it all together was that remarkable system of gears, designed to translate the motion of one component into the precisely calculated motion of all the others. Even more remarkable was the evidence of careful planning and design that went into the device's construction. This was not the work of a talented artisan improvising with available materials, but the product of sophisticated engineering calculations. The gear ratios had been worked out mathematically to achieve specific relationships between the movement of different components. The spacing of markings on the scales corresponded to astronomical periods known to ancient Greek science. Every aspect of the device spoke of careful thought, precise calculation, and masterful execution. As news of the discovery spread beyond the archaeological community, it began to capture the imagination of the general public as well. Newspapers carried stories about the ancient computer found beneath the Mediterranean Sea. Scientists and engineers traveled to Athens to examine this impossible artifact for themselves. And slowly, a new understanding began to emerge of just how sophisticated ancient Greek science and technology had truly been. But even as scholars marveled at the device's mechanical complexity, its actual purpose remained mysterious. What was this machine designed to do? What problems was it built to solve? And perhaps most intriguingly, who possessed the knowledge and skill necessary to conceive and construct such a remarkable device? The gears held their secrets silently, waiting patiently for the development of technologies advanced enough to peer beneath their corroded surfaces and read the messages inscribed in bronze and mathematics by hands that had been dust for 20 centuries. In the quiet halls of the National Archaeological Museum, the Antikythera mechanism rested like a sleeping sphinx, guardian of mysteries that would take the better part of a century to unravel. And yet, even in its corroded and fragmentary state, it whispered hints of wonders to come. This was clearly more than a simple mechanical curiosity. It was evidence of a lost world of ancient science and technology, a civilization capable of achievements that modern scholarship was only beginning to appreciate. The gears spoke of minds that could think in precise mathematical relationships, hands that could craft metal with extraordinary precision, and an understanding of the natural world that combined theoretical knowledge with practical engineering skill. As you drift towards sleep tonight, imagine those ancient craftsmen working by lamplight in some forgotten workshop, carefully filing deer teeth to perfect mathematical specifications, testing and adjusting their bronze creation until it performed exactly as their calculations predicted it should. Picture their satisfaction as they watched their mechanical cosmos come to life, bronze wheels turning in perfect harmony, carrying forward the wisdom of generations into an uncertain future. They could not have known that their masterpiece would spend 2,000 years sleeping beneath the waves, waiting for a new age of science to rediscover and appreciate their achievement. But perhaps they would have been pleased to know that their work would eventually stand as proof that human ingenuity and the pursuit of knowledge transcend the boundaries of any single era, connecting us across the centuries with threads of curiosity and wonder that time itself cannot break. For decades after its discovery, the Antikythera mechanism remained one of archaeology's most tantalizing puzzles. Scholars could see that it was mechanically sophisticated, clearly ancient, and obviously important, but its actual purpose remained frustratingly elusive. Like trying to understand a complex piece of music from seeing only fragments of the score, researchers could appreciate individual elements without grasping the magnificent whole. The breakthrough came gradually, through the patient work of dedicated researchers who refused to let the mystery rest unsolved. In the 1950s and 1960s, a British science historian named Derek de Solla Price began what would become a decades-long investigation into the device's secrets. Using the emerging technologies of his era, including some of the first X-ray examinations of archaeological artifacts, Price began to peer beneath the corroded surface and glimpse the elegant mechanism hidden within. What he found exceeded even his most optimistic expectations. This was not simply a collection of gears arranged in some arbitrary pattern, but a carefully designed astronomical calculator of extraordinary sophistication. The ancient Greeks had created what could only be described as the world's first analog computer, a mechanical device capable of predicting the movements of celestial bodies with remarkable accuracy. Picture, if you will, the night sky as it appeared to ancient observers, unburdened by the light pollution that obscures the heavens for most of us today. The stars shone with a clarity and brilliance that took the breath away. The Milky Way stretched across the darkness like a river of light, and the planets, those wandering stars that moved against the fixed background of constellations, traced their mysterious paths with clockwork regularity that spoke of divine order underlying apparent chaos back to the ancient Greeks. Understanding the movements of these celestial bodies was not merely an intellectual exercise, but a practical necessity that touched every aspect of life. Farmers needed to know when to plant and when to harvest. Sailors needed to understand the seasons and navigate by the stars. Religious festivals were tied to lunar cycles and stellar positions. And perhaps most importantly, in an age when the line between astronomy and astrology was barely drawn, predicting celestial events was believed to offer insights into earthly affairs. The challenge was enormous. While the sun follows a predictable annual path and the moon completes its cycle in a known period, the movements of the planets are far more complex. Mars, for instance, sometimes appears to slow down, stop, and even reverse direction against the background stars before resuming its forward motion. Venus disappears and reappears with bewildering regularity. Mercury is visible only briefly at dawn or dusk, and its appearances follow no immediately obvious pattern. Yet ancient Greek astronomers, through centuries of careful observation and mathematical analysis, had discovered the underlying order in these apparently chaotic movements. They realized that what appeared to be irregular motion from Earth's perspective was actually the result of viewing planets from our own moving platform as we orbit the sun. They calculated the periods of planetary orbits with stunning accuracy and developed mathematical models that could predict future positions. The Antikythera mechanism was the physical embodiment of this astronomical knowledge. Its bronze gears were arranged in precise ratios that replicated the mathematical relationships between celestial cycles. When the operator turned the main input dial, representing the passage of time, all the other components moved in harmony, displaying the positions of the sun, moon, and planets for any selected date. The main dial, which would have dominated the front face of the device when it was complete, showed the sun's annual journey through the zodiac. This was familiar territory for any educated Greek, as the 12 signs of the zodiac provided a convenient framework for tracking seasonal changes and religious observances. But the mechanism went far beyond this basic solar calendar. A subsidiary dial tracked the phases of the moon with remarkable precision, accounting not only for the basic 29.5-day lunar month, but also for the subtle variations in the moon's orbit that cause some months to be longer than others. Another dial showed the 4-year Olympic cycle, that fundamental organizing principle of Greek life that regulated not only athletic competitions, but also political and economic affairs. But perhaps most impressively, the mechanism could predict eclipses, solar and lunar eclipses, those dramatic moments when day turns to night or the moon disappears in Earth's shadow, had terrified and fascinated humanity since the dawn of consciousness. The ability to predict these events in advance represented the ultimate triumph of rational understanding over superstitious fear. The eclipse prediction dial, located on the back of the mechanism, displayed what ancient astronomers called the Saros cycle, a period of 223 lunar months during which eclipse patterns repeat. This cycle, discovered through centuries of careful observation by Babylonian astronomers and refined by Greek mathematicians, allowed accurate eclipse predictions hundreds of years into the future. The fact that this knowledge was incorporated into the Antikythera mechanism speaks to the international character of ancient science and the sophisticated mathematical understanding of its creators. Even more remarkable was the device's ability to track the movements of the known planets. In the ancient world, only 5 planets were visible to the naked eye: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Each followed its own complex pattern of motion, and predicting their positions required intricate calculations involving multiple mathematical relationships. Yet the mechanism's gear trains were designed to reproduce these planetary motions mechanically, turning abstract mathematical concepts into tangible bronze reality. The precision required for this mechanical astronomy was extraordinary. The gear ratios had to be calculated to many decimal places to achieve acceptable accuracy over long periods. The teeth on the gears had to be cut with exacting precision, as even tiny errors would accumulate over time into major inaccuracies. The entire system had to be engineered to minimize friction and wear, while maintaining the delicate relationships between its many components. Consider the mathematical sophistication required to design such a device. The creators needed to understand not only the basic periods of celestial cycles, but also their complex interactions. They had to know, for instance, that 235 lunar months equal almost exactly 19 solar years. A relationship called the Metonic cycle after the Greek astronomer Meton, who publicized it in the 5th century BCE. This cycle forms the basis for reconciling lunar and solar calendars, a problem that has challenged civilizations throughout history. They also needed to understand the more complex patterns, such as the fact that planetary positions repeat in great cycles spanning centuries or millennia. Mars returns to the same position relative to the zodiac and the seasons every 284 years. Venus completes 5 synodic periods, the time from one greatest brilliancy to the next, in almost exactly 8 solar years. Jupiter's orbit, the longest, visible to ancient observers, takes nearly 12 years to complete, giving it special significance in astrological calculations. All of this astronomical knowledge, accumulated over centuries of observation and refined through generations of mathematical analysis, was encoded in the bronze gears of the Antikythera mechanism. It was, in essence, a library of the heavens rendered in metal, a device that preserved and made accessible the greatest scientific achievements of its age. But the mechanism was more than just a calculator. It was also a teaching tool, a way of demonstrating the underlying harmony and order of the cosmos. When operated, it would have provided a compelling visual representation of how the various celestial cycles interlocked and influenced each other. Students could see how eclipses were related to the relative positions of the Sun, Earth, and Moon. They could understand why certain planetary configurations were considered significant by observing how rarely they occurred in an age before printing. When knowledge was precious and difficult to preserve, such a device would have been invaluable. It concentrated vast amounts of astronomical information into a portable format, allowing scholars to carry the wisdom of generations with them wherever they went. It was, in every sense, a product of the highest intellectual achievement of the ancient world. As you settle deeper into comfort tonight, imagine yourself as a student in ancient Rhodes or Alexandria, watching in wonder as your teacher demonstrates this remarkable machine. See the bronze dials turning slowly in the lamplight, their pointers tracing out the eternal dance of the heavens. Feel the satisfaction of understanding, for the first time, why the moon changes phases, or why Mars sometimes moves backward against the stars. This was knowledge pursued not for profit or power, but for the pure joy of understanding how the universe works. It was science in its highest form, driven by curiosity and wonder, creating beauty as well as utility. And somehow, through a chain of circumstances that defies probability, this precious artifact has survived to remind us that the human desire to understand our place in the cosmos is as old as civilization itself. In the gentle quiet of evening contemplation, one question whispers more persistently than all others about our mysterious bronze companion, who possessed the extraordinary combination of mathematical genius, mechanical skill, and astronomical knowledge necessary to conceive and create such a remarkable device? The answer, like so many aspects of the ancient world, remains tantalizingly just beyond our reach, hidden in the mists of time like a half-remembered dream. Yet we can piece together clues, following threads of evidence and probability through the intellectual landscape of the ancient Mediterranean world. A story of the mechanism's creation is, in many ways, the story of ancient science itself, a tale of brilliant minds working across generations to understand the fundamental workings of the cosmos. The most obvious candidate, the name that immediately comes to mind when discussing ancient mechanical genius, is Archimedes of Syracuse. Even today, more than 2,000 years after his death, Archimedes remains synonymous with ingenious mechanical devices and mathematical breakthrough. His screw for raising water, his compound pulley systems, his war machines that defended Syracuse against Roman siege, all speak to a mind capable of translating abstract mathematical concepts into practical mechanical reality. Ancient sources tell us that Archimedes created mechanical models of the heavens, devices that could demonstrate the movements of the sun, moon, and planets through intricate arrangements of bronze spheres and gears. Cicero, the great Roman orator, wrote admiringly of such a device that had been brought to Rome after the fall of Syracuse, describing it as a machine that could reproduce eclipses and show the varying speeds of celestial bodies with remarkable accuracy. Could the Antikythera mechanism be connected to this tradition? The timeline certainly allows for the possibility. Archimedes lived in the 3rd century BCE, and the shipwreck that carried our mechanism to its watery resting place occurred sometime between 70 and 60 BCE. There would have been ample time for Archimedes' innovations to be copied, refined, and developed by subsequent generations of craftsmen and scholars. But Archimedes was not working in isolation. He was part of a broader intellectual tradition centered in the great city of Alexandria, where the famous library and museum served as magnets for the finest minds of the ancient world. Here, under the patronage of the Ptolemaic pharaohs, scholars from across the Mediterranean gathered to study mathematics, astronomy, geography, medicine, and natural philosophy. It was in Alexandria that Hipparchus, perhaps the greatest observational astronomer of antiquity, conducted his meticulous studies of stellar positions and planetary motions. Hipparchus discovered the precession of the equinoxes, that slow wobble in Earth's rotation that causes the position of stars to shift gradually over centuries. He created the first comprehensive star catalog, mapping the positions and brightness of over 850 stars. Most importantly for our story, he developed many of the mathematical techniques and astronomical constants that would have been essential for designing the Antikythera mechanism. The device shows clear evidence of Hipparchus's influence. Lunar calculations built into its gear trains reflect his precise observations of lunar motion, including subtle variations that had escaped earlier astronomers. The eclipse prediction capabilities depend on his refinement of Babylonian eclipse cycles. Even the method of dividing the zodiac into precise degrees shows his mathematical approach to astronomical problems. But creating the mechanism required more than astronomical knowledge. It demanded mechanical engineering skills of the highest order, the ability to translate mathematical relationships into precisely crafted bronze gears. This suggests the involvement of craftsmen from the island of Rhodes, which had developed a reputation throughout the ancient world for mechanical innovations and precision metalwork. Rhodes was a commercial powerhouse in the Hellenistic period, its merchants traveling throughout the Mediterranean and beyond. The island's workshops produced some of the finest bronze work of the ancient world, including the famous Colossus, one of the 7 wonders, which stood guard over Rhodes Harbor for over half a century. The mechanical expertise required to engineer and construct such massive bronze sculptures would have translated perfectly to the precision work required for astronomical mechanisms. Archaeological evidence supports this Rhodian connection. The ship that carried the Antikythera mechanism appears to have been traveling from the Greek islands toward Rome, perhaps carrying luxury goods and cultural artifacts for wealthy Roman patrons who had developed a taste for Greek art and learning. Rhodes would have been a natural stopping point on such a voyage, and several of the other artifacts from the wreck show stylistic connections to Rhodian workshops. We can imagine, then, a collaboration between the theoretical astronomers of Alexandria and the practical craftsmen of Rhodes. Perhaps a wealthy patron, possibly a Roman aristocrat with intellectual interests, commissioned a mechanical representation of the heavens based on the latest astronomical theories. The mathematical framework would have come from scholars working in the tradition of Hipparchus, while the mechanical execution would have been the work of Rhodian, bronze smiths and precision engineers. But there's another possibility that adds an intriguing dimension to our story. Recent analysis of the inscriptions on the mechanism has revealed text referring to specific astronomical phenomena that were particularly significant in certain regions of the ancient world. Some scholars now suggest that the device might have been created not in the famous centers of learning, but in a smaller community where practical astronomy was essential for daily life. Consider the island of Antikythera itself, or similar small communities scattered throughout the Greek islands. Here, fishermen needed precise knowledge of tidal cycles and seasonal changes. Farmers depended on accurate calendars for planting and harvesting. Religious observances were tied to lunar phases and stellar positions. In such communities, astronomical knowledge wasn't academic luxury, but practical necessity. Perhaps our mechanism was created by a local genius, someone whose name has been lost to history, but whose understanding of the heavens rivaled that of the famous scholars of Alexandria. Working in a small workshop, possibly near the very waters where the device would eventually come to rest, this unknown craftsman might have combined traditional metalworking skills with self-taught astronomical knowledge to create something unprecedented. The beauty of this possibility lies in its reminder that genius can emerge anywhere, in any era. The great centers of learning like Alexandria and Rhodes certainly fostered innovation and scholarship, but they held no monopoly on brilliant minds. Throughout history, some of the most revolutionary discoveries have come from unexpected sources, from individuals working outside established institutions. Driven by curiosity and necessity rather than academic tradition, whoever created the Antikythera mechanism, whether a famous name like Archimedes or an anonymous genius whose workshop looked out over the wine-dark Aegean, they left us something precious beyond measure. They created a device that was simultaneously practical tool, teaching instrument, and work of art. They demonstrated that ancient craftsmen could achieve precision that wouldn't be matched again for over a millennium. Most importantly, they proved that the human drive to understand and predict natural phenomena transcends any particular era or culture. As you rest tonight, picture these ancient workshops where bronze and mathematics came together in perfect harmony. Imagine the quiet satisfaction of a craftsman filing gear teeth to precise specifications, knowing that each tiny adjustment brought the device closer to perfect astronomical accuracy. Think of the moment when the completed mechanism was first operated, its bronze wheels turning smoothly as they traced out the eternal dance of the heavens. These creators worked without recognition, without fame, motivated purely by the desire to understand and represent the workings of the cosmos. They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is its own reward, that the satisfaction of solving a difficult problem or creating something beautiful can justify a lifetime of patient effort. In their anonymous excellence, they achieved a kind of immortality, their work speaking across the centuries about the power of human ingenuity and the timeless appeal of mechanical perfection. For most of the 20th century, the Antikythera mechanism guarded its deepest secrets like a sphinx wrapped in bronze and time. Researchers could see its gears, marvel at its complexity, and theorize about its purpose, but the devices corroded. Surfaces concealed layer upon layer of information that remained tantalizingly out of reach. It was like trying to read a book whose pages had been sealed shut by centuries of salt and oxidation, knowing that profound knowledge lay hidden just beneath the surface. Then, as the new millennium approached, modern technology began to offer tools that would have seemed like magic to the ancient craftsmen who created the mechanism. X-ray computed tomography, the same technology used to peer inside the human body without invasive surgery, could now look deep into corroded bronze artifacts and reveal details invisible to the naked eye. High-resolution imaging systems could capture surface features smaller than the width of a human hair. Three-dimensional reconstruction software could reassemble fragmentary remains into complete virtual models. The breakthrough came through the patient work of an international team of researchers led by Tony Freeth from University College London and Mike Edmonds from Cardiff University. Using equipment provided by X-Tech Systems and Hewlett-Packard, they embarked on what would become one of the most detailed archaeological investigations ever undertaken. A quest to read every inscription, map every gear, and understand every aspect of this remarkable ancient computer. The results were nothing short of revolutionary. As the X-ray images emerged from the scanning process, they revealed not just the mechanism's basic structure, but an intricate world of details that had been hidden for over a century since the device's discovery. Text that had been completely invisible to previous researchers suddenly became readable. Gear ratios that had been matters of educated guesswork were now precisely measurable. The full complexity of the mechanism's design was finally laid bare. What they found exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. The device contained not 30 gears, as earlier researchers had estimated, but at least 37, with evidence suggesting that the complete mechanism might have contained over 70 individual components. This wasn't simply a large collection of gears, but a carefully integrated system where each component served multiple functions and every detail had been planned with mathematical precision. The text inscriptions proved particularly revealing. Written in the Greek alphabet, they provided what amounted to an ancient user's manual for the device. The inscriptions included month names from various Greek calendars, astronomical terms describing planetary phenomena, and even what appeared to be predictions about future celestial events. Reading these ancient instructions was like eavesdropping on conversations between scholars who had been dead for 2 millennia. One of the most fascinating discoveries was a series of inscriptions that described the colors associated with different planetary predictions. Ancient astrology assigned specific colors to different planets and celestial phenomena, and the mechanism's inscriptions showed that these associations were built into its predictive capabilities. When Venus reached certain positions, for instance, the device would have indicated not just the astronomical event, but also its traditional astrological significance. The precision of the gear cutting became apparent for the first time through these high-resolution scans. The teeth on even the smallest gears were cut with remarkable regularity, showing variations of less than a few hundredths of a millimeter. This level of precision required not just skilled craftsmanship, but also sophisticated measuring tools and techniques. The ancient creators had achieved manufacturing tolerances that wouldn't be matched again until the development of precision clockmaking in the 17th and 18th centuries. More intriguingly, the scans revealed evidence of repairs and modifications made to the mechanism in antiquity. Some gears showed signs of wear, suggesting the device had seen actual use rather than being merely a demonstration piece. Other components appeared to have been replaced or adjusted, indicating that ancient technicians understood not only how to build such devices, but also how to maintain and repair them. The virtual reconstruction process allowed researchers to create detailed three-dimensional models of the mechanism as it would have appeared when new. For the first time since antiquity, the complete device could be seen in its full glory, its bronze surfaces gleaming, its multiple dials and scales clearly marked, its complex arrangement of gears visible through transparent panels that had long since disappeared. These virtual models revealed design features that had been completely unknown to earlier researchers. The mechanism had not one, but multiple output displays, each showing different types of astronomical information. The main front dial displayed the sun's position in the zodiac and the phases of the moon. Subsidiary dials showed the 4-year Olympic cycle and various other calendar systems used throughout the Greek world. The back of the device was even more remarkable. Here, 2 large spiral dials displayed long-term astronomical cycles that spanned decades or centuries. One spiral showed the 19-year metonic cycle that reconciled solar and lunar calendars. The other displayed the 223-month Saros cycle used for predicting eclipses. These spirals were marked with detailed inscriptions that not only showed when eclipses would occur, but also described their characteristics, such as whether they would be total or partial, and what time of day they would begin. Perhaps most impressive was the mechanism's treatment of planetary motion. The ancient Greeks understood that planets don't move at constant speeds as they traverse the zodiac, but rather speed up and slow down in complex patterns. Representing this mathematically was challenging enough, but translating these calculations into mechanical form required extraordinary ingenuity. The solution involved what modern engineers call epicyclic gearing, a system where smaller gears roll around the inside or outside of larger ones to create complex patterns of motion. This technique, rediscovered in medieval Islamic clockmaking and later refined in European mechanical clocks, was already being used by Greek craftsmen over 2,000 years ago. The precision required to make such systems work properly speaks to a level of mechanical sophistication that historians are still coming to terms with. But perhaps the most remarkable discovery was how the mechanism handled one of ancient astronomy's most challenging problems: the irregular motion of the moon. The moon's orbit around Earth is not a perfect circle, but an ellipse, which means its speed varies as it travels from point to point. Ancient astronomers had discovered this irregularity and developed mathematical models to describe it, but translating these models into mechanical form seemed nearly impossible. The Antikythera mechanism solved this problem through a brilliant piece of mechanical engineering. A small pin and slot system allowed one gear to wobble slightly as it rotated, creating the variable motion needed to match the moon's irregular orbit. This technique, known to modern engineers as a linear variable differential, wouldn't be reinvented until the work of Danish astronomer Ole Rachmer in the 17th century. As researchers delved deeper into the mechanism's secrets, they began to appreciate not just its technical sophistication, but also its aesthetic qualities. This wasn't merely a calculating device, but a work of art, designed to be as beautiful as it was functional. The proportions of its displays followed pleasing mathematical relationships. The inscriptions were carved with the same care given to monumental architecture. Even the gear teeth, hidden inside the mechanism where no user would ever see them, were finished with a precision that went beyond mere functional necessity. The mechanism also revealed evidence of the interconnected nature of ancient science. Its eclipse predictions were based on Babylonian astronomical observations refined by Greek mathematical techniques. Its calendar systems reflected the political and cultural diversity of the Hellenistic world. Its planetary models incorporated Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and Greek astronomical traditions. In its bronze gears and inscribed scales, the mechanism preserved not just astronomical knowledge, but the entire intellectual heritage of the ancient Mediterranean world. As you settle deeper into rest tonight, imagine the ancient scholars who first operated this remarkable device, watching in wonder as it revealed the hidden patterns underlying celestial motion. Picture them turning the input crank slowly, observing how each rotation brought new predictions, new understanding, new appreciation for the mathematical beauty of the cosmos. These ancient scientists saw no contradiction between practical utility and aesthetic beauty, between precise calculation and spiritual wonder. Their mechanism was simultaneously a tool for prediction, an instrument for education, and a celebration of the underlying harmony they believed governed all existence. In every carefully crafted gear and precisely inscribed scale, they embedded not just astronomical data, but their deepest convictions about the nature of reality itself. As our journey through time continues, let yourself settle deeper into comfort. Feel your breathing slow and deepen as we turn our attention to perhaps the most remarkable aspect of our ancient Greek computer. For within its bronze framework lies something truly extraordinary, a calendar that encompasses the entire cosmos, compressed into a device no larger than a shoebox. Close your eyes and imagine yourself standing in a moonlit workshop in ancient Rhodes. Around 100 BCE, the Mediterranean breeze carries the scent of olive trees through the window as candlelight flickers across the intricate dials of the Antikythera mechanism. Tonight, we shall explore how this remarkable device captured the very heartbeat of the universe itself. The artisan who created this marvel understood something profound about time. Time is not simply the tick of seconds or the turn of days. Time is the eternal dance of celestial bodies, weaving patterns across the heavens that repeat with mathematical precision. And somehow, impossibly, they managed to recreate this cosmic choreography in bronze and wood. Let us begin with the front face of the mechanism, where a large circular dial displays what the ancients called the zodiac. Picture this dial now, its bronze surface worn smooth by centuries beneath the sea, yet still bearing the faint inscriptions of the 12 zodiacal signs. Aries the ram, Taurus the bull, Gemini the twins, each sign marking a sacred portion of the sun's annual journey across the heavens. But this was no mere decoration. As you turn the bronze crank on the side of the device, watch as the sun pointer moves with deliberate precision around this zodiacal calendar. One full turn of the crank advances the sun exactly one day along its path. The mechanism knows, with uncanny accuracy, that the sun requires precisely 365 and a quarter days to complete its celestial journey. It knows this truth that would not be rediscovered in the West for another 1,000 years. Nested within this solar calendar lies an even more intricate mystery: the phases of the moon. A silver sphere, half black and half bright, rotates within a small window to show whether the moon is new, waxing, full, or waning. This miniature moon knows secrets that baffle us still. It understands that lunar months do not align neatly with solar years, that the moon dances to her own celestial rhythm, completing her cycle in 29.5 days. Feel the weight of this knowledge. The ancients who built this device had unlocked one of nature's greatest puzzles: how to reconcile the incompatible cycles of sun and moon into a single, harmonious calendar. They had solved the riddle that had frustrated civilizations for millennia. Now let your mind drift to the back of the mechanism, where even greater wonders await. Here, carved into bronze with microscopic precision, are the solutions to celestial mysteries that would challenge astronomers for centuries to come. The upper dial on the back reveals the Metonic cycle, named after the Athenian astronomer Meton, who discovered this profound truth around 430 BC. I imagine the excitement of that discovery. After careful observation, Meton realized that exactly 235 lunar months equal almost exactly 19 solar years. The difference is so small, less than 2 hours, that for practical purposes, they are identical. The mechanism transforms this abstract mathematical relationship into physical reality. The Metonic cycle dial tracks 235 synodic months arranged as a 5-turn spiral encompassing exactly 19 tropical years. As the spiral pointer completes its journey over 19 years, the lunar and solar calendars align once more with breathtaking precision. Picture this spiral now, its bronze track catching the candlelight as it curves inward like a cosmic seashell. Each turn represents nearly 4 years of celestial observations, compressed into a space smaller than your palm. The ancient Greek craftsmen who cut this spiral worked with tolerances that would challenge modern machinists, yet they achieved it with nothing but bronze tools and inexhaustible patience. But the Metonic cycle reveals an even deeper secret. The mechanism skillfully determines which months have 29 or 30 days. You see, lunar months are not uniform. Sometimes the new moon arrives after 29 days, sometimes 30. the pattern seems random, but the Antikythera mechanism knows better. Hidden within its gears is the secret algorithm that predicts these variations with startling accuracy. Beneath the metonic dial lies another spiral of even greater mystery, the Saros cycle. This is the ancient Babylonian secret of eclipse prediction, a cycle of 223 lunar months that spans just over 18 years. The eclipse prediction function uses the ancient Babylonian Saros eclipse prediction cycle, displaying symbols to show months in which there was a likelihood of a solar or lunar eclipse. Imagine the awe of ancient astronomers when they first discovered this pattern. After centuries of fearing eclipses as omens of doom, they suddenly realized that these celestial events followed a precise, predictable schedule. The sun and moon were not battling in the heavens. They were dancing to choreography written in the language of mathematics. The Saros spiral bears mysterious symbols next to each month, Greek letters that indicate not just when an eclipse will occur, but what type it will be: a solar eclipse at midday or a lunar eclipse in the deep of night. Even the time of day when the eclipse would reach its peak. All of this information encoded in bronze, waiting for someone wise enough to read the cosmic calendar. As you contemplate these spirals, let your mind wander to their deeper meaning. Each turn of each dial represents not just the passage of time, but the fundamental orderliness of the universe. The ancient Greeks who created this device believed in a cosmos that was rational, predictable, beautiful in its mathematical harmony. They saw in the movements of the planets the same geometric perfection they found in music, in architecture, in the golden ratio that governs the spiral of seashells. A subsidiary four-year dial showed when the various Panhellenic games should take place, including the ancient Olympic Games. Even here, in this seemingly mundane function, we see the Greek genius for finding cosmic patterns in human affairs. The Olympic Games were not merely athletic competitions. They were sacred festivals, timed to the celestial calendar, part of the great cosmic order that governed all things. The mechanism also contained what scholars call a parapegma, a star calendar that predicted the rising and setting of prominent constellations throughout the year. Parapegma inscriptions are indexed to the zodiac dial, with inscriptions about the risings and settings of stars. This was the farmer's calendar, the sailor's guide, telling them when Sirius would herald the flooding of the Nile, when the Pleiades would signal the time for planting grain. Picture an ancient Greek farmer checking his mechanical oracle before deciding when to sow his fields, or a merchant captain consulting the device to determine the safest time for a voyage across the wine-dark sea. The Antikythera mechanism was not merely an instrument of abstract astronomy. It was a practical tool that connected cosmic order to daily life. But perhaps the most remarkable feature of all was the mechanism's ability to track planetary movements. Recent research has revealed that the device could predict the positions of Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn with astonishing accuracy. The device simulates the movements of celestial bodies and predicts astronomical events such as eclipses, planetary positions, and the phases of the moon. Imagine the complexity required for such calculations. Each planet moves at its own speed, follows its own orbital path, occasionally appearing to move backward against the fixed stars in what we now call retrograde motion. To the ancients, these planetary movements were among the most baffling phenomena in nature. Yet somehow, the creators of the Antikythera mechanism captured all of this celestial complexity in a system of bronze gears. The mechanism was created to accurately calculate the position of the sun, moon, and planets. This single sentence encompasses knowledge that would not be fully recovered in the West until the Renaissance. The ancient Greeks had achieved something that modern scholars are still struggling to fully understand. They had built a mechanical computer capable of modeling the solar system. As you drift deeper into relaxation, let yourself marvel at the profound vision this represents. 2,000 years before Galileo pointed his telescope at Jupiter's moons, before Kepler discovered the elliptical nature of planetary orbits, before Newton formulated the law of gravitation, an anonymous Greek craftsman was building a device that could predict celestial events with remarkable precision. The calendar of the cosmos that lived within the Antikythera mechanism was more than a mere calculation tool. It was a physical manifestation of the Greek belief that the universe was knowable, that behind the apparent chaos of daily experience lay eternal mathematical truths waiting to be discovered. Picture this ancient computer in its prime, its bronze dials gleaming in the Mediterranean sunlight as scholars and sailors consulted its mechanical wisdom. Each turn of its crank revealed new secrets about the dance of the heavens, confirming again and again that we live in a universe governed by beautiful, discoverable laws. As we prepare to continue our journey through the mysteries of this remarkable device, let your breathing become even slower and deeper. Feel the weight of 20 centuries settling gently over you like a comfortable blanket. The ancient Greeks who created this marvel are long gone, but their greatest creation continues to whisper its secrets across the centuries, reminding us that human curiosity and ingenuity can illuminate even the darkest corners of cosmic mystery. Rest now in the knowledge that the same stars that guided ancient navigators still wheel overhead tonight, following the same eternal patterns that the Antikythera mechanism captured in bronze so long ago. The calendar of the cosmos continues its patient count, marking time until we are ready to unlock its remaining secrets. As the gentle waves of sleep begin to wash over you, let us journey deeper into one of history's most haunting questions. The Antikythera mechanism sits before us in our imagination, its bronze gears gleaming in the soft candlelight. But tonight, it seems less like a solitary miracle and more like a whispered promise of wonders that once were, and perhaps might have been again. Breathe slowly and deeply as we contemplate this profound mystery. For if the ancient Greeks could create such an extraordinary device over 2,000 years ago, what other marvels might have existed in their time? What other mechanical computers? What other bronze calculators? What other glimpses of the future lay scattered across the ancient Mediterranean world, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps already lost forever to time's relentless tide? Picture the great harbor of Alexandria in the 2nd century BCE, where the Antikythera mechanism may have been created. Ships from every corner of the known world bobbed gently at anchor, their holds filled not just with gold and spices, but with something far more precious: knowledge. Scholars from Athens and Rome, from Babylon and Damascus, from the furthest reaches of the Hellenistic world have gathered here, drawn by the magnetic pull of the greatest center of learning the ancient world had ever seen. At the heart of this intellectual paradise stood the great library and its companion institution, the Mouseion, dedicated to the 9 muses who governed the arts and sciences. The library was part of a larger research institution called the Mouseion, which was dedicated to the muses, the 9 goddesses of the arts. Here, in halls lined with hundreds of thousands of papyrus scrolls, the greatest minds of antiquity pursued knowledge with a passion that would not be seen again for over a millennium. Imagine walking through those sacred halls, your sandals whispering against marble floors, worn smooth by generations of scholars. The air is thick with the scent of papyrus and ink, the quiet murmur of learned conversation, the occasional scratch of reed pens against parchment. In one alcove, a mathematician works out the circumference of the earth with nothing but shadows and geometry. In another, an astronomer charts the precession of the equinoxes, discovering that the very stars themselves dance to unimaginably slow rhythms. And in a workshop, at the edge of the complex, perhaps a master craftsman bends over his bronze working tools, creating devices that seem to capture the very essence of the cosmos in metal and wood. The Antikythera mechanism may not have been unique. It may have been one of many such devices, each a masterpiece of ancient engineering, each a testament to humanity's eternal desire to understand and predict the movements of the heavens. Consider the genius of Hero of Alexandria, who lived and worked in this extraordinary intellectual environment. Hero is responsible for several amazing mechanical and technological inventions involving water, steam, and wind power. Hero of Alexandria came up with a new invention that depended on the mechanical interaction of heat and water. He invented a rocket-like device called an aeolipile. It used steam for propulsion. Picture Hero's workshop, filled with the hiss of steam and the whisper of perfectly calibrated mechanisms. His aeolipile spins like a bronze planet, powered by jets of vapor that would not be understood again until the Industrial Revolution 18 centuries later. Among his most famous inventions was a wind wheel, constituting the earliest instance of wind harnessing on land. Here was a man who understood principles that medieval Europe would consider magic. Yet to him they were simply the logical application of natural philosophy. But Hero was not alone. The ancient world teemed with inventors and engineers whose names have been lost to history, but whose achievements occasionally surface like treasures from a sunken ship. The dioptra was a practical invention of Hieron that became a foundation of surveying as the ancient Greeks built sprawling cities and erected great temples and monuments. It also became a mainstay of the Greek astronomers, allowing them to judge the position and elevation of celestial bodies. As you drift deeper into contemplation, imagine the workshops and academies that once dotted the ancient world like stars in the night sky. In Athens, the academy founded by Plato continued to explore the mathematical foundations of reality. In Syracuse, the heirs of Archimedes refined the science of mechanics and hydraulics. On Rhodes, skilled craftsmen created devices that could navigate by the stars or predict the return of comets. Each of these centers of learning was connected to the others by networks of trade and scholarship that spanned the Mediterranean. Ideas flowed as freely as goods, and innovations in one city would quickly spread to others. The Antikythera mechanism, wherever it was created, was part of this vast intellectual ecosystem, a flowering of human knowledge that had taken centuries to develop. But then came the long twilight. Unfortunately, the library was destroyed in a series of fires and conflicts over the centuries, and much of its knowledge and wisdom was lost forever. The destruction was not sudden, not the dramatic conflagration that popular imagination often depicts, but rather a slow hemorrhaging that lasted centuries. While fires did occur, the library wasn't destroyed all at once. Rather, it succumbed to a slow decline over centuries. Picture the gradual abandonment of these great institutions. Political instability made long-term research impossible. Wars scattered scholars to the winds. Economic decline meant fewer resources for maintaining libraries and workshops. The rise of religious fundamentalism led to the destruction of works deemed heretical or pagan. One by one, the lights of ancient learning flickered and went out. Much of Hero's original writings and designs have been lost, but some of his works were preserved in manuscripts from the Byzantine Empire, and to a lesser extent in Latin or Arabic translations. What we know of ancient technology represents only the tiniest fraction of what once existed. For every hero whose name survived, how many other inventors vanished without trace? For every Antikythera mechanism recovered from the sea, how many others lie buried in forgotten ruins or were melted down for their bronze? The loss becomes even more poignant when we consider what might have been preserved. Hieron's most important geometric work, Metrica, was lost until 1896. This single work, rediscovered in a dusty manuscript in Constantinople, revolutionized our understanding of ancient mathematics. How many other treatises? How many other technical manuals? How many other descriptions of mechanical marvels lie waiting in unexplored archives or have been lost forever? As the Mediterranean world fragmented and knowledge retreated into isolated monasteries, and scattered private collections, the tradition of sophisticated mechanical engineering nearly vanished. The skills needed to create devices like the Antikythera mechanism, passed down through generations of master craftsmen, were forgotten. The theoretical understanding that made such devices possible was relegated to the realm of ancient curiosities. Imagine a medieval monk copying an ancient text that describes Hero's steam engine or the astronomical functions of the Antikythera mechanism. To him, these descriptions would seem like fantasies, impossible tales from a legendary past. The very idea that ancient craftsmen could create self-moving devices powered by steam, or mechanical computers that predicted eclipses, would appear to violate the natural order of things, yet occasionally like faint echoes from a lost world. Hints of this ancient knowledge would surface. Arabic scholars in Baghdad preserved and translated works that Europe had forgotten. Byzantine craftsmen maintained traditions of precision metalworking that had their roots in Alexandria. In monasteries scattered across Europe, patient scribes copied mathematical treatises they could not fully understand, preserving seeds of knowledge for future generations to rediscover. The rediscovery of the Antikythera mechanism in 1901 was like finding a message in a bottle, cast into the sea of time by an ancient civilization that had achieved wonders we are only now beginning to appreciate. It forces us to reconsider our assumptions about the past, to acknowledge that human ingenuity and technical sophistication are not the exclusive privilege of the modern age. What other messages might be waiting for us, buried in the silt of forgotten harbors or hidden in the foundations of ancient buildings? What other mechanical marvels might surface to challenge our understanding of what the ancients could achieve? Every archaeological expedition, every underwater excavation, every careful exploration of ancient sites carries the possibility of discoveries that could rewrite our understanding of the past. As you settle deeper into the peaceful rhythm of your breathing, let your mind wander to those lost workshops of antiquity. Picture skilled craftsmen bent over their bronze lathes, cutting gears with tolerances that would impress modern machinists. Imagine scholars huddled around mechanical models of the solar system, using bronze and wood to explore the fundamental nature of cosmic motion centuries before Galileo and Newton. The knowledge they possessed was not lost through any single catastrophe, but rather through the accumulated weight of centuries, the gradual erosion of institutional memory, the slow fading of traditions that had once seemed as permanent as the stars themselves. It reminds us how fragile our own accumulated knowledge might be, how dependent we are on the continuous chain of learning that connects us to our ancestors. Yet there is also hope in this story. Knowledge, like water, has a remarkable ability to find new channels when old ones are blocked. The same human curiosity that drove ancient Greek inventors to create the Antikythera mechanism continues to drive us today. The same mathematical insights that allowed them to model celestial mechanics in bronze continue to guide our exploration of the universe. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Antikythera mechanism is not what it tells us about ancient technology, but what it reveals about the unchanging nature of human wonder. The desire to understand, to predict, to create devices that extend our capabilities beyond their natural limits. These impulses are as old as consciousness itself. They survived the fall of empires and the burning of libraries, preserved not only in scattered texts, but in the very structure of human nature. As we prepare to continue our exploration of this ancient marvel, let yourself be comforted by this continuity. The same stars that guided the creators of the Antikythera mechanism wheel overhead tonight. The same mathematical principles that they discovered still govern the motion of planets and the prediction of eclipses. In learning about their achievements, we are not just studying the past, but reconnecting with the deepest currents of human creativity and understanding. Rest now in the knowledge that though much has been lost, the essential spark of human curiosity burns as brightly today as it did in the workshops of ancient Alexandria. The Antikythera mechanism stands as proof that remarkable achievements are possible in any age, and that the greatest discoveries often come from minds that refuse to accept the limitations of their time. As the night grows deeper around us and your breathing settles into the peaceful rhythm of approaching sleep, let us embark on a gentle journey across the ancient world. For the Antikythera mechanism, remarkable as it is, was not alone in the cosmos of human ingenuity. Like stars scattered across the darkness of time, other extraordinary devices once existed, each reflecting humanity's eternal quest to harness the forces of nature and understand the mysteries of existence. Close your eyes and let your mind drift across the vast expanse of the ancient world, where brilliant minds and distant civilizations were creating their own mechanical marvels. From the ziggurats of Babylon to the jade palaces of imperial China, from the temples of Egypt to the workshops of medieval Islam, ingenious craftsmen were building devices that seemed to whisper across the centuries, echoing the same spirit of innovation that gave birth to our bronze computer beneath the Mediterranean waves. Let us begin our journey in the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, where the Babylonians looked up at the same stars that fascinated the Greeks, but found their own elegant solutions to the puzzle of time. Picture the great city of Babylon at its height, its hanging gardens catching the first light of dawn, while in a temple courtyard, water drips with measured precision into a bronze vessel. The Babylonian water clock, or clepsydra, represents one of humanity's earliest attempts to mechanize time itself. It may have been an invention of the Chaldeans of ancient Babylonia, with specimens from Egypt dating from the 14th century BCE. Imagine these ancient timekeepers, elegant in their simplicity, yet profound in their implications. During the ancient Babylonian period, Maltaktam was a word that had been interpreted to mean water clock. Picture this device in its original setting, a bronze or clay vessel carefully calibrated so that water flows out at a constant rate through a small hole in the bottom. As the water level drops, it reveals markings on the inner wall that correspond to the passage of hours. But these were not merely utilitarian devices. The Mule pin contains catalogs of stars and constellations, as well as schemes for predicting heliacal risings and settings of the planets, and lengths of daylight as measured by a water clock. The Babylonians understood something profound about their water clocks that would not be appreciated again for millennia. They knew that the length of daylight changed with the seasons, and they designed their clepsydrae with remarkable sophistication to account for these variations. The research presents experimental evidence and examines the design of Babylonian water clocks through the lens of astronomical observations, particularly focusing on the accuracy of eclipse timings. These were not just timepieces, but astronomical instruments in their own right, mechanical calendars that connected the flow of water to the dance of celestial bodies. As you drift deeper into contemplation, imagine the soft sound of water dripping. In a Babylonian temple, each drop marking not just the passage of moments, but the eternal rhythm of the cosmos itself. The priests who tended these devices understood that time was not uniform, that summer hours were longer than winter hours, and they adjusted their water clocks accordingly with mechanical systems of floats and counterweights that rival the ingenuity of any Swiss clockmaker. Now let your imagination carry you eastward, across the vast steppes and mountains of Central Asia, to the ancient civilization of China, where entirely different but equally remarkable mechanical traditions were flourishing. Here, in workshops scented with sandalwood and illuminated by paper lanterns, Chinese inventors were creating devices that would reshape the world's understanding of navigation and direction. The Chinese compass, known as the South Pointer or South-Pointing Fish, represents another stunning example of ancient mechanical sophistication. The magnetic compass was first invented as a device for divination as early as the Chinese Han Dynasty and Tang Dynasty, since about 206 BC, but this humble description fails to capture the true wonder of these devices. Picture The earliest Chinese compasses. In the spring and autumn period, while mining ores and melting copper and iron, Chinese people chanced upon a natural magnetite that attracted iron and pointed fixedly north. The spoon or ladle-shaped compass is of magnetic lodestone, and the plate is of bronze. The circular center represents heaven, and the square plate represents earth. These were not merely navigational tools, but philosophical instruments that embodied the Chinese understanding of cosmic harmony. The circular heaven rotating above the square earth, the magnetic spoon always pointing toward the celestial north. These compasses were mechanical manifestations of the Taoist principle that earthly affairs should align with heavenly patterns. Development of the magnetic compass as a navigational aid is often credited to the Chinese polymath Shen Kuo during the Song dynasty. But long before Shen Kuo's refinements, Chinese craftsmen had created a variety of ingenious magnetic devices. South-pointing fish, south-pointing tortoise, and water-floating magnetic needle were invented and used for a while. Imagine these delightful devices. A wooden fish floating in a bowl of water, its belly containing a magnetized needle that guides it always toward magnetic north. Or picture a jade turtle, symbol of longevity and wisdom, its shell hiding magnetic secrets that could guide travelers across vast distances. The Chinese also determined direction with a device consisting of an eye. Wooden fish containing a magnetized needle placed in a bowl filled with water. These early compasses were more than practical tools. They were works of art that transformed the abstract force of magnetism into familiar, comforting forms. A traveler far from home could look at his south-pointing fish and feel connected to the eternal patterns that govern both earth and heaven. As the centuries passed, Chinese inventors refined their magnetic devices with the same patience and precision that Greek craftsmen devoted to their bronze gears. These more refined needle compasses could then be floated in water, placed upon a pointed shaft, or suspended from a silk thread, making them much more useful for navigation purposes, since they were now much more portable. Now let us drift back westward to the great civilization of Egypt, where the science of timekeeping took on yet another form. In ancient Egypt, the hieroglyph Hainu was used for clepsydra, and pictograms of Nupot for bronze timekeeping instruments for short intervals. The Egyptians, master builders of pyramids and temples aligned with astronomical precision, created water clocks of extraordinary sophistication. Picture an Egyptian temple at dawn, where priests consult bronze vessels marked with hieroglyphs that divide the night into 12 equal parts. These temple clocks were not merely practical instruments, but sacred devices that helped synchronize earthly rituals with celestial rhythms. The priests who tended them understood that their water clocks were earthly reflections of cosmic order, mechanical prayers that honored the eternal dance of sun, moon, and stars. The Romans invented a clepsydra consisting of a cylinder into which water dripped from a reservoir. A float provided readings against a scale on the cylinder wall. The Romans, practical as always, transformed the mystical water clocks of Egypt and Babylon into legal instruments. From at least the 4th century BC, water clocks were used in courthouses to make sure that speakers stayed within their allotted time to talk. Imagine a Roman courtroom, where the steady drip of water marks not just the passage of time, but the measured pace of justice itself. Here, mechanical precision serves not the gods, but the law, ensuring that every citizen receives equal time to present their case. This practical application of ancient technology shows how mechanical devices could serve both sacred and secular purposes, adapting to the needs of different civilizations while maintaining their essential function of imposing order on the flow of time. As our journey through ancient technology continues, let your mind wander to the medieval Islamic world, where the traditions of Greek, Persian, and Indian knowledge converge to create devices of stunning complexity. The most sophisticated water-powered astronomical clock was Al-Jazari's castle clock, considered by some to be an early example of a programmable analog computer. In 1206, it was a complex device that was about 11 feet high and had multiple functions alongside TIMEKEEPI and G. Picture Al-Jazari's magnificent creation, a tower of bronze and wood reaching toward the heavens, its multiple dials tracking not just the hours, but the movements of sun, moon, and zodiac. Water flows through hidden channels to power mechanical figures that emerge to announce the hours, while gears and levers calculate the changing length of daylight throughout the year. This single device represents the culmination of centuries of mechanical innovation, combining the water clock traditions of Babylon and Egypt with the gear-cutting techniques that created the Antikythera mechanism. The castle clock demonstrates that the spirit of mechanical innovation did not die with ancient Greece, but continued to flourish wherever curious minds encountered the challenge of automating natural processes. Like the Antikythera mechanism, it shows how ancient craftsmen could create devices that seemed to bridge the gap between the mechanical and the magical, using bronze and water to capture the essential rhythms of cosmic order. As you settle deeper into the peaceful rhythm of your breathing, consider the profound connections between these ancient devices. Whether they tracked time with flowing water, direction with floating magnets, or celestial movements with bronze gears, they all represent humanity's fundamental desire to create order from chaos, to find mechanical means of capturing natural processes, to build devices that extend human perception beyond its natural limits. These machines were more than mere tools. They were meditation devices, mechanical prayers that connected their users to the deeper patterns of existence. The Greek astronomer turning the crank of his Antikythera mechanism, the Chinese navigator consulting his south-pointing fish, the Babylonian priest marking time with his water clock, the Islamic engineer adjusting his castle clock, all were participating in the same ancient dialogue between human ingenuity and natural law. Each of these civilizations discovered, independently, that the natural world operates according to predictable patterns, and each found mechanical ways to embody these patterns in bronze, wood, and stone. Their devices whisper across the centuries of a time when technology was still closely connected to philosophy, when mechanical precision served spiritual as well as practical purposes. The Antikythera mechanism stands among these devices not as a unique anomaly, but as one brilliant star in a constellation of ancient innovation. Together, these machines remind us that human creativity has always sought to understand and harness the fundamental forces that shape our world. They show us that the desire to build devices that think, calculate, and predict is as old as civilization itself. As we prepare to continue our exploration of ancient mysteries, let yourself be comforted by this continuity of human achievement. The same impulse that drove ancient craftsmen to create their mechanical marvels continues to inspire inventors and innovators today. The gears still turn, the water still flows, the magnets still point north, and human curiosity still reaches toward the stars, seeking always to transform wonder into wisdom through the patient work of mind and hand. As we drift deeper into our journey through time, let your mind wander to that quiet place where mystery meets possibility. Close your eyes and imagine the gentle lapping of waves against the Greek coast, carrying with them secrets that have waited over 2,000 years to be whispered into the night. Tonight, we find ourselves asking perhaps the most intriguing question of all: who possessed such extraordinary knowledge in the ancient world that they could create a device that wouldn't be matched for another 15 centuries? Was it simply human genius, or something more mysterious that guided those bronze gears into being? Let yourself sink deeper into your pillow as we explore these gentle mysteries together. Picture, if you will, the island of Rhodes in the 2nd century before Christ. The Mediterranean sun sets slowly over terraced hillsides where olive trees sway in the evening breeze. In a modest workshop overlooking the harbor, an elderly man with weathered hands traces celestial calculations on a wax tablet. This is Hipparchus, often called the greatest astronomer of antiquity. His beard is silver. Now, his eyes still sharp with the fire of discovery. By candlelight, he works late into the night, mapping the movements of the stars with a precision that will astound scholars for millennia to come. Hipparchus was the first to discover the precession of the equinoxes, that slow wobble of Earth. That takes 26,000 years to complete one cycle. He cataloged over 800 stars, creating the first comprehensive star map of the ancient world. Most remarkably, he calculated the distance to the moon with an accuracy that modern science confirms to be nearly perfect. The lunar theory embedded within the Antikythera mechanism bears his mathematical fingerprints. Those bronze gears turn according to his calculations, following his understanding of the moon's elliptical dance around Earth. When the mechanism predicts an eclipse, it whispers Hipparchus's name in the soft clicking of its gears. But could even this genius have conceived of such mechanical complexity? Or was there something more guiding his extraordinary mind? Let your thoughts drift back further still, to the bustling port city of Syracuse, in the 3rd century before our era began. Here lived perhaps the greatest mind the ancient world ever produced. Archimedes of Syracuse. Imagine him in his workshop, surrounded by pulleys and levers of his own design. Water clocks mark the passing hours as he contemplates the dance of planets across the night sky. His hands, stained with bronze dust and mathematical ink, sketch gear ratios that won't be understood again for 1,000 years. Cicero, writing centuries later, described a bronze device that Archimedes had created, one that could show the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. He wrote of it with wonder, calling it a marvel that captured the very workings of heaven itself. Could this legendary device have been an earlier version of what we now call the Antikythera mechanism? Archimedes understood principles of mechanics that wouldn't be rediscovered until the Renaissance. His screw could lift water defying gravity. His war machines could sink ships from impossible distances. His mathematical theorems laid foundations that Newton would build upon too, millennia later. If anyone possessed the knowledge to create a cosmic calculator in bronze, it would have been this gentle giant of ancient science. Yet even Archimedes seems almost too extraordinary to be entirely human in his capabilities. How did one mind contain such vast understanding of mathematics, physics, astronomy, and engineering? As you rest more deeply, let your imagination carry you to Alexandria, that great lighthouse of learning that once illuminated the ancient world. In the quiet hours before dawn, scholars from across the Mediterranean gathered in halls lined with papyrus scrolls, their voices echoing softly as they debated the nature of the cosmos. The Library of Alexandria wasn't merely a collection of books. It was a living organism of knowledge, where the greatest minds of the age collaborated on questions that modern science still struggles to answer. Here, Egyptian astronomy merged with Babylonian mathematics. Greek geometry danced with Persian. Star charts. Perhaps the Antikythera mechanism wasn't the creation of a single genius, but the collaborative masterpiece of this vanished academy. Picture a team of scholars working together, one calculating planetary periods, another designing gear ratios, a third crafting the bronze components with practiced hands. They would have worked by lamplight, their calculations spreading across table after table. A master astronomer like Hipparchus providing the theoretical framework. A mechanical genius in the tradition of Archimedes, translating theory into bronze reality. Craftsmen whose skills rivaled those of the finest clockmakers, yet who lived in an age when such clocks weren't supposed to exist. But even this explanation carries its own mystery. How did such collaborative genius arise in the ancient world? What inspired this flowering of knowledge that seems to have emerged from nowhere, only to vanish just as mysteriously. Asterisk, now, as your breathing slows and sleep begins to call your name, allow yourself to consider more fantastical possibilities. In the realm of dreams, where logic bends like light through water, what if the Antikythera mechanism carries whispers from a very different source? Some nights, when the moon is dark and imagination runs free, we might wonder if knowledge sometimes flows backward through time. Could future wisdom have somehow impressed itself upon ancient minds, leaving traces in bronze and calculations? The mechanism's sophistication seems to leap across centuries, appearing fully formed like Athena from Zeus's head. Its creators understood principles of differential gearing that wouldn't be independently discovered until mechanical clocks emerged in medieval Europe. They mapped celestial cycles with a precision that suggests observations spanning many lifetimes. What if consciousness itself is not bound by time in the way our waking minds assume? In dreams, we sometimes know things we've never learned, see places we've never visited. Perhaps in the ancient world, when the barriers between sleeping and waking were thinner, knowledge could flow more freely across the centuries. Asterisk, as you drift between waking and sleeping, your mind might wander to other explanations that live in the realm between science and wonder. Ancient texts speak of visitors from the heavens, of beings who taught humanity the arts of civilization. Could the Antikythera mechanism be a legacy of such encounters? The device maps the movements of celestial bodies with a precision that suggests intimate familiarity with the dance of planets. Its creators knew things about planetary periods and eclipse cycles that seem to require centuries of careful observation. Yet archaeology suggests these calculations were perfected in a remarkably short time. Perhaps the mechanism is humanity's attempt to recreate technology demonstrated by visitors, whose understanding of the cosmos far exceeded our ancient ancestors' wildest dreams. The bronze gears might be echoes of more advanced materials, the mechanical calculations shadows of computational methods, beyond our current understanding. But whether the knowledge came from human genius, temporal whispers, or stellar visitors, the Antikythera mechanism stands as testament to the eternal human drive to understand our place in the cosmic dance. Let yourself sink even deeper now, into that liminal space where mystery and rest intertwine. Consider how the ancient mind experienced reality differently from our modern consciousness. Without electric lights to banish the night, our ancestors lived more intimately with darkness and stars. They dreamed more vividly, remembered their dreams more clearly, and drew less distinction between the wisdom received in sleep and knowledge gained in waking hours. In such a world, revolutionary insights might arrive not through gradual research, but in sudden illuminations that felt like gifts from the gods themselves. The creators of the Antikythera mechanism might have experienced their breakthrough not as logical deduction, but as a kind of cosmic download, a sudden understanding that came complete and whole. The device might be humanity's best attempt to give physical form to knowledge, received in states of consciousness we've forgotten how to access. As your body grows heavy and your thoughts begin to spiral gently downward into sleep, remember that some mysteries are more beautiful for remaining unsolved. The Antikythera mechanism continues to guard its secrets, offering tantalizing glimpses of its creators while keeping their true identities, shrouded in the mists of time. Perhaps it doesn't matter whether the device was created by Hipparchus or Archimedes, by a team of Alexandrian scholars, or by minds touched by wisdom from beyond the stars. What matters is that it exists, this bronze miracle that bridged the gap between ancient wisdom and modern understanding. In your dreams tonight, you might find yourself walking through that Rhodian workshop where bronze gears first learned to dance in imitation of celestial mechanics. You might sit beside that Alexandrian scholar as divine inspiration strikes like lightning, revealing the mathematical relationships that govern planetary motion. Or perhaps You'll dream of standing on a moonlit beach where the Antikythera mechanism slowly turns in mid-air, its bronze gears catching starlight as it whispers the secrets of time itself. Each rotation brings you closer to understanding not just the device, but the eternal human quest to touch the infinite through the work of mortal hands. The gentle clicking of its gears becomes the rhythm of waves against the shore, becomes a beating of your own heart, becomes the ancient pulse that connects all seekers of truth across the centuries. Let that rhythm carry you now into peaceful sleep, where mysteries reveal themselves not as problems to be solved, but as invitations to wonder at the magnificent complexity of existence itself. Tomorrow's questions can wait until tomorrow's light. For now, rest in the gentle mystery of the ancient gears, turning their eternal dance between the known and unknowable, between human genius and divine inspiration, between what was and what might yet be discovered in the endless turning of time. Sleep well, dreamer, and let the Antikythera mechanism guard your dreams with its bronze wisdom and celestial knowledge. Now, as we reach the final chapter of our ancient tale, allow yourself to settle completely into comfort. Let your shoulders release their tension. Let your breathing deepen naturally, and prepare to drift into a world where bronze gears turn. In harmony with the eternal dance of the cosmos. Tonight, you are no longer merely listening to a story about the Antikythera mechanism. Tonight, you become part of its timeless mystery, carried back across the centuries to experience its wonder through the eyes of those who first gave it life. Feel yourself sinking deeper into peaceful rest as we journey together to that magical place where dreams and stars converge. Imagine yourself now as a learned astronomer in ancient Rhodes, living in the 2nd century before our modern era began. The day's heat has faded into the gentle coolness of evening, and the Mediterranean breeze carries the scent of jasmine and salt through your study's open window. You are one of the few people in the world privileged to possess an Antikythera mechanism, this miracle of bronze and mathematical precision. It sits before you on a wooden table worn smooth by years of scholarly work, its dials catching the soft glow of the oil lamps that illuminate your chamber. The mechanism has become more than a tool to you. It is a companion, a window into the mind of the divine architect who set the celestial spheres in motion. Each evening, as the first stars appear in the darkening sky, you perform your ritual of communion with the cosmos. Your fingers, gentle with reverence, reach for the main drive wheel. As you turn it slowly, the bronze gears begin their ancient song. Click, 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 each sound as soft as a whispered prayer, as rhythmic as your own breathing, growing slower and deeper with each passing moment. The front dial shows the sun's position moving through the zodiac, marking its yearly journey among the constellations. You watch as it passes from Gemini into Cancer, the movement so smooth and precise that it seems to carry the very essence of solar radiance within its bronze pathways. As you continue to turn the mechanism, the lunar dial begins its more complex choreography. The moon, that ancient companion of humanity's dreams, traces her elliptical path across the bronze cosmos. Sometimes she moves faster, sometimes slower, just as she does in the real sky above your head. Tonight is special. The mechanism shows that in 3 days' time, the moon will pass directly into Earth's shadow, painting herself the color of rust and copper in a total lunar eclipse. Your ancestors would have trembled at such an omen, but you smile with quiet satisfaction, knowing that your bronze oracle has predicted this celestial event with perfect accuracy. The eclipse dial turns slowly beneath your touch, its spiral groove, tracking the ancient Saros cycle discovered by Babylonian watchers of the sky. Every 223 lunar months, eclipses repeat their patterns, and your mechanism remembers them all. It is a bronze memory palace, storing the rhythms of eternity within its carefully crafted wheels. As you work with the device, your breathing synchronizes. With its gentle clicking, click, breathe in, click, breathe out. The boundary between your consciousness and the mechanism's wisdom begins to blur, as if you are becoming part of the great cosmic clockwork yourself. Asterisk, your fingers find the upper dial, where the wandering stars, the planets, trace their mysterious paths. Mars glows red in its bronze heaven, moving through its retrograde loop with the patience of eternity itself. Jupiter, the king of planets, majestically processes through the zodiac, taking 12 years to complete his circuit. Venus, the morning, an evening star, dances her elegant pattern, never straying far from the sun's bronze radiance. Mercury, swift messenger of the gods, races through his cycles with quick precision. Each planet follows the path laid out by the mechanism's creator, that mysterious genius whose understanding of celestial mechanics rivals your own wonder. As you watch these bronze planets move, you feel a profound connection to the cosmos stretching infinitely above your head. The real Mars hangs in the actual sky tonight, its red dot of light visible through your window. Yet here in your hands, its bronze counterpart moves through the same celestial choreography, as if you hold a miniature universe, complete with all its divine mathematics. The mechanism becomes a meditation device, its gentle rhythms lulling your mind into deeper and deeper states of tranquil awareness. Each turn of the gear train is a step further into cosmic consciousness, each click a note in the great symphony of the spheres. Asterisk, listen closely now, as the mechanism begins to share its deepest secrets. The bronze gears seem to whisper as they turn, telling stories of the craftsman who shaped them, the mathematician who calculated their ratios, the astronomer who verified their accuracy against the eternal dance of the heavens. You sense the presence of Hipparchus in the lunar calculations, his ghost dwelling within the gear trains that predict the moon's every mood. Archimedes' spirit lives in the mechanical precision, the elegant way force flows through bronze teeth to create motion. That mirrors the god's own handwork. But there are other presences too, older and more mysterious. The mechanism carries whispers from Babylonian star watchers who first noticed the Saros cycle. It echoes with the voices of Egyptian priests who mapped the seasons and connected earthly life to celestial rhythm. It hums with the mathematics of minds whose names are lost to time, but whose insights gleam forever in bronze dot as you turn the mechanism. These ancient voices blend into a gentle chorus that grows ever more soothing. Their words are in languages you don't recognize, yet somehow you understand their meaning. They speak of the eternal patterns that connect all things, the hidden harmonies that bind the smallest atom to the largest star. Your eyelids grow heavy as you listen to this bronze orchestra of ancient wisdom. The mechanism's clicking becomes softer, more distant, like waves lapping at the shore of consciousness as you drift toward the borderland of dreams. Asterisk, the Antikythera mechanism begins to take on a life of its own, its gears turning without your assistance, as if powered by the very forces it was designed to map. The bronze dials glow with their own inner light, and you realize you are no longer in your earthly study, but floating in the vast cosmic space the mechanism was created to explore. Around you, the planets move in their eternal dance, but now you can see the invisible threads that connect them. Golden filaments of gravitational force create a web of influence that extends from each world to every other, a cosmic tapestry of which the mechanism's gears are merely a bronze shadow. The sun blazes at the center of this celestial mandala, its nuclear fire providing the energy that drives the great cosmic clockwork. The moon, silver and serene, pulls at imaginary tides that flow not just through earthly oceans, but through the fabric of space itself. Mars glows like a ruby set in the crown of night, while Jupiter's great red eye watches over the dance with ancient patience. You understand now that the Antikythera mechanism was never just a calculator or a calendar. It was a bronze prayer wheel, designed to align human consciousness with the rhythms of the divine. Each turn of its gears was an act of worship, each prediction a communion with the eternal patterns that govern all existence. The mechanism floats before you now, suspended in the star-filled void, its bronze surfaces reflecting the light of distant suns. It turns slowly, majestically, keeping time with the pulse of the universe itself. The clicking of its gears becomes the heartbeat of creation, the rhythm that sustains galaxies in their spiral dance and guides atoms through their quantum choreography. Asterisk, as you watch the mechanism spinning in the cosmic darkness, you begin to understand the true nature of time. Past and future are merely directions on a wheel that turns forever, bringing ancient wisdom forward into each present moment and carrying today's discoveries back into yesterday's dreams. That the creators of the mechanism knew this secret. They built their bronze oracle not just to predict eclipses and planetary positions, but to create a physical embodiment of time's circular nature. In its gears, all moments exist simultaneously. The ancient past when it was created, the distant future when it will be discovered, and the eternal now when consciousness touches the infinite. You realize that you have always been here, floating in this cosmic space with the mechanism as your guide. You will always be here, part of the eternal dance of bronze and starlight, mathematics and mystery. The boundaries of individual existence dissolve like mist before the dawn of cosmic awareness. The mechanism's clicking grows softer still, merging with the background hum of the universe itself. Stellar radiation sings in frequencies too low for human ears, but your dreaming consciousness can hear their music now. Pulsars beat their precise rhythms across the galaxy. Solar winds whisper secrets between the planets. The Antikythera mechanism has become your guardian now, protecting your sleep with its ancient wisdom. Its bronze gears filter the chaos of the universe, presenting only the most harmonious frequencies to your resting consciousness. Under its protection, your dreams will be filled with cosmic wonder and mathematical beauty. See how it hovers above you, turning slowly like a benevolent star. Its dials show not just the positions of planets, but the location of every dream that has ever been dreamed, every hope that has ever been wished upon a star. It maps the territory of sleep itself, guiding your consciousness safely through the landscape of night. The mechanism knows the cycles of your own inner cosmos. It can predict when your deepest dreams will occur, when your mind will be most receptive to the universe's gentle teachings. Its bronze wisdom aligns your personal rhythms with the greater patterns that govern all existence. As you sink deeper into peaceful slumber, the mechanism continues its eternal vigil. Its gears turn with the patience of geological ages, marking time that flows like honey, sweet and golden and infinitely slow. Each click becomes more distant, more dreamlike, until it merges completely with the rhythm of your own breathing and heartbeat. Asterisk. Now the mechanism completes its final revolution. For tonight, coming to rest with a soft, satisfied sigh. Its bronze surface is cool in the imaginary breeze that flows between the stars. The last echoes of its clicking fade into the cosmic background radiation, leaving only the profound silence that exists at the heart of all mystery. You drift alongside it in this peaceful void, no longer needing to understand its secrets, because you have become one with its essence. The ancient Greek genius who designed it, the Roman merchant who carried it across the Mediterranean, the modern archaeologist who first glimpsed its gears beneath the sea, you are all connected now in the timeless moment of the mechanism's bronze. Dreams. Sleep comes as naturally as the tide, as inevitably as an eclipse predicted 2,000 years in advance. The Antikythera mechanism settles into its own cosmic slumber, its work complete for another cycle. Its bronze dreams will carry your dreams within them, adding your personal rhythms to the great symphony it has been conducting since the day it was born from fire and mathematics in an ancient workshop. The stars wheel slowly overhead, marking Time on a scale that makes human lifespans seem like single heartbeats. But the mechanism transcends such measurements, existing in the eternal now, where all time is one time. All consciousness is one consciousness. All mystery is one great unknowing. That encompasses and nurtures all knowledge. Rest now in the gentle embrace of bronze and starlight. Let the Antikythera mechanism guard your dreams with its ancient patience and celestial wisdom. Tomorrow's questions will wait for tomorrow's awakening. Tonight, there is only the eternal dance of gears and galaxies, mathematics and mystery. Sleep and stars dot in the soft clicking of its bronze heart, in the gentle turning of its cosmic wheels, in the infinite patience of its astronomical calculations. The Antikythera mechanism offers its greatest gift, the knowledge that you are part of something vast and wonderful and perfectly synchronized with the rhythms of eternity itself. Sleep, dreamer of ancient dreams. Sleep, and let the bronze cosmos turn on without you for a while, secure in the knowledge that when you wake, the stars will still be dancing their eternal dance, and the mechanism will still be there to guide you back into wonder. The bronze gears whisper their final goodnight, soft as a mother's lullaby, ancient as the first star that ever shone, eternal as the love that moves the sun and all the other stars. Good night. And so, dear dreamer, our journey through the mysteries of the ancient world draws to its gentle close. You have traveled with us across more than 2,000 years, from the moment a bronze miracle first sank beneath Mediterranean waves to its resurrection in our modern age of wonder. Together, we have explored the workshops where unknown geniuses crafted starlight into bronze, where mathematical poetry became physical reality, where human ambition reached across the centuries to touch the eternal dance of the cosmos itself. The Antikythera mechanism has shared its secrets with you, whispered its bronze wisdom into the quiet chambers of your resting mind. You have walked with Hipparchus under the starlit skies of Rhodes, felt the Mediterranean breeze carry ancient calculations on its wings. You have stood beside Archimedes in his workshop, watching divine inspiration flow through mortal hands into bronze gears that would outlast empires. You have drifted through the halls of Alexandria's great library with a collected wisdom of the ancient world once glowed like captured starlight in the darkness. Most precious of all, you have experienced the mechanism not just as a historical artifact, but as a living bridge between human consciousness and the infinite mystery that surrounds us. In its gentle clicking, you have heard the heartbeat of the universe itself. In its bronze calculations, you have glimpsed the mathematical poetry that writes itself across the night sky in languages of light and gravity. Antikythera mechanism continues its eternal vigil even now, as you rest in the borderland between waking and sleeping. Its bronze gears turn with the patience of geological ages, keeping time with rhythms older than civilization, more enduring than the mountains, more constant than the tides. Let its ancient wisdom settle into your bones like warm honey sweet. With the knowledge that human genius has always reached toward the stars, that mystery and understanding dance together in an eternal embrace, that every question answered reveals 10 new questions waiting like shy children in the shadows of the unknown. Your dreams tonight will be guarded by bronze sentinels who have watched over the secrets of time for 20 centuries. They will filter the chaos of the world, presenting to your sleeping consciousness only the most harmonious frequencies, the most peaceful visions, the most gentle mysteries that nurture rather than disturb. When morning comes and consciousness returns like a tide flowing back across the beaches of awareness, the Antikythera mechanism will still be there, continuing its bronze meditation on the nature of time and space and the eternal human drive to understand our place in the cosmic dance. But that is tomorrow's wonder. Tonight, there is only the soft clicking of ancient gears, the gentle whisper of Mediterranean waves against limestone cliffs, the patient turning of bronze cosmos wheels that measure dreams in units too subtle for waking minds to comprehend. Rest? Well, traveler of ancient paths. Sleep deeply in the embrace of mysteries that comfort rather than perplex, questions that lull rather than stimulate, bronze wisdom that protects your slumber with the same care that guards the orbits of the planets themselves. The Antikythera mechanism bids you good night with all the gentleness of its creator's hands, all the patience of its bronze heart, all the eternal love that moved those ancient minds to capture infinity in years and dials, and calculations that still speak to us across the vast ocean of time. Until we meet again in some future dream of ancient wonders. Let the bronze cosmos sing you to sleep with its lullaby of clicking gears and stellar mathematics, its gentle promise that in a universe of infinite mystery, consciousness itself is the most miraculous mechanism of all. Sweet dreams, dear listener. May your sleep be as peaceful as the Mediterranean depths, where our bronze oracle waited 20 centuries for the perfect moment to share its secrets with wondering minds like yours. The stars are watching over you tonight, keeping time with a bronze heart that beats in rhythm with eternity itself.